Hello, I am Dr. Jessica Peterkin, and I am a survivor of postpartum psychosis. In 2022, I gave birth to my rainbow baby after experiencing a loss in 2020. But what was supposed to be a time of joy, celebration, and excitement quickly turned into the most excruciating, painful, and traumatizing time of my life. Today, I want to share my story in honor of Maternal Mental Health Awareness Month. I began sharing in 2023, but was unable to complete my journey as I was continuing on my road to recovery. It's only now that I feel fully strengthened to be able to share most details as I can recall from that excruciatingly painful time. What started as merely just postpartum anxiety quickly turned into delusional thoughts, suicide ideation, and paranoia. The most harrowing part about it all is that I was in the care of a midwife, a postpartum doula. I also saw the pediatrician regularly, as well as a urologist and even a dentist for lip and tongue tie release for my new infant, not to mention a lactation consultant. And nobody knew. Nobody asked the right questions. So I didn't offer the right information to let them know that I was suffering inside. And to be quite honest, I didn't even know myself. In 2020, after I lost my pregnancy, I started mental health therapy and completed sessions in May of 2021. June of 2021, I found out that I was pregnant with my new son and quickly experienced a lot of trauma as I dealt with a disturbing situation involving people that I love. That particular situation really rocked me and caused a very large time of turmoil and disruption to my family life. But we pushed through, we made amends, and we're still rocking. But within that time frame, I also had a huge disruption in my office with employees. I had to let go half of my staff due to mismanagement of funds, for lack of better words, as it relates to how the practice was being ran. And I unfortunately had to stop receiving income from my private practice, despite the fact that I was preparing for giving birth in several months later. And so that was very much a tumultuous time in my life and was very difficult to endure, but I pushed through yet again. And then one of my friends that I grew up with in high school, we shared the exact same date of birth. She passed away, and I attended her funeral, and I did not know how much that would affect me. But I suppressed that and pushed through. But seeing our date of birth on that obituary was like no other feeling I could describe. So throughout the rest of the pregnancy, I carried with me this burden of death that was adjacent to my date of birth. And then in October 2021, I went to go visit my friend to just get away. And I had an amazing time. And I was able to reconnect with one of my close girlfriends. And seeing her, we both found out we were pregnant together. And so thereafter, we spoke regularly, updating each other on the progress of our pregnancy. She was expecting her first baby girl after having had several boys. I returned to Arizona to be with my family and continued the last 3 months of my pregnancy in my office before going on maternity leave. 2 weeks later, my midwife, who I was supposed to use for my home birth, sent a notice that her young daughter had passed away. 2 weeks later, my midwife, who I was supposed to use for my home birth, sent a notice that her young daughter had passed away. Her young adolescent daughter had passed away due to a medical complication. And so then that burden attached itself to me. And I grieved for her because this woman is incredible in what she does. She is a powerhouse in the field of maternal infant health. And to see her have to endure burying her baby girl way before her time was so heartbreaking. But I had to support her. I went to the funeral and I supported her. as much as I could, holding my breath and hoping that she would return, but not really sure. So this sent me in a frenzy because I was excited about doing a home birth, but it was because I felt like I was in control of my birth story. So fast forward to December, my doula that I hired told me that she was pregnant and could no longer attend my birth in the way that she originally said she could. She also said she was experiencing homelessness and needed to move out of state. And my money went down the drain. So I was just, in a tight spot financially, having dealt with what I dealt with in the office. I was in a tight spot mentally because I was grieving so much. I was in a tight spot emotionally because everything seemed to be out of control despite how I tried to carefully line my ducks in a row for this big anticipation and celebration of the arrival of my rainbow baby. And then everything hit a peak in December of 2021. I talked to my friend every day, and we were both planning home births. I had told her that I think that it would be a good idea for her to consider having a midwife. She had hired a doula to attend her births, and she was planning on doing free birth, but just with a doula in attendance. And she listened to what I said, but she didn't really fully take heed. And we text that day. She started telling me that she was bouncing on the birthing ball, and she started to have contractions, and she was getting ready to give birth to her baby girl. And I was so excited for her. And I texted her like 3 hours later, like asking for an update, trying not to bother her, but asking for an update. And she didn't respond. So I assumed, oh, she had the baby. So I'll talk to her a few days later. She finally responded to my text, but I was at my office seeing a patient. And she told me that in the middle of birth, her uterus ruptured and she lost her baby girl. And she almost lost her life. And so here I am, grieving for my sister, my friend, yet carrying this weight of guilt because I felt like I had spoken damnation on her. And it took me talking to my therapist to understand that perhaps the Lord used me to send her a warning so that she could have insight that she should tread lightly and be careful. But I didn't know. So that was very tough. But again, I sucked it up and I kept moving. So then, I called my therapist. I was like, I need therapy. I've experienced a lot of grief, a lot of loss. And now I'm worried about my practice because I'm getting ready to go on maternity leave next month. So this is December. I'm talking about January of 2022. And my therapist is okay. So within those last 6 weeks of pregnancy, leading up to the first 6 weeks of postpartum, I had a 12-week plan with her. So we talked weekly, and I would just share with her my concerns. We did EMDR to help process traumas leading up to all of this, because I was a sexual abuse victim as a child. I suffered from having some abandonment issues and physical abuse issues and things like that. So all of these things had to be worked out, because there was a sense of I need to control everything in order for me to feel safe. I need to be in charge. So all of these situations that were beyond my control, death, loss of finances, people mismanaging funds, all of these things were beyond my control. There's nothing I can do about it but react and respond in that moment. And so I started to feel like, when you have a balloon and you put helium in it and then you let it go without holding it down with a weight or a string, that balloon floats this way, that way. You don't know where it's going. And that's how I would describe it. I feel like I'm out of control. I don't like the way I'm feeling. I had an amazing patient who was also a community midwife who was coming in for visits during that time. And she spoke to me and tried to tell me not to carry the burden of other people's sorrow. And I tried. But I think the most blaring detail that was going on at that time was all of these things had a common theme, and it was death. There was just so much death. And a lot of the words of people, peers and family members and so-called friends, when it related to my birth and delivery of my child, was like, oh, what's going to happen in case of an emergency, as it related to my home birth. And all I could think about was my sister from college, who just lost her baby girl and almost lost her own life. And I started to doubt that I could even do it anymore.